Let's look at an early 18th century Austrian palash, and this is by special request of Thomas Evan Hughes on the Facebook page. Hi folks, I'm Matt Easton and I'm here at Olympia Auctions at the moment looking at some of the amazing lots coming up in the sale on the 4th of December 2024. And one of those things is an early 18th century palash. Now, you might be thinking, Matt, that's a sabre. Well, the hilt indeed is of a style which we also find on sabre blades, or szabla if you're in Poland. However, this ain't a sabre blade. This is a palash. That means essentially a broadsword. So it's a straight, in this case, double-edged. They can sometimes be single-edged, so in other words, back swords. But this is a straight, double-edged, quite broad, choppy boy blade. Now, in addition to the normal knuckle bow, and this is the type of knuckle bow, incidentally, that people in countries like Britain emulated later on in the 1700s. And, you know, fundamentally, it's quite similar to the 1788 British cavalry sword. But these earlier palashes, they have almost always a thumb ring on the inside, and very often a outer guard, in this case, which has a plate-like element to it. So it actually offers quite a bit more hand protection than a typical knuckle bow. And you've got, with that thumb ring, you've got better retention of the weapon and the ability to use the back edge in ways that perhaps are a little bit more controlled than if you didn't have a thumb ring on there. So this is Austrian and dates to between about 1711 and 1730. So it's early 18th century. And it's got some interesting engraving on the blade here. Let's just have a look at this. So there it's got Vivat, so long live Carolus Sictus, long live Charles the VI, Imperator Germanae Rex Bohemia. So in other words, Emperor of Germany and King of Bohemia. And then on the other side we've got the double-headed imperial eagle, as you can see there with the crown above. And down here, Vivat Prince Eugen, so long live Prince Eugen. So this is, you know, and it's got some other markings there actually, I've just noticed on the back of the quillon just in there. So this is a really nice chunk of history, and it's interesting, these palashes were used by various types of cavalry, but they are an alternative to the sabre or szabla. And obviously the sabre is more specialised to the cut, having a curved blade, but the advantage of the palash, which were often used by heavy cavalry, is that the palash has the ability to give a direct charging thrust. So if you're riding forward at full gallop on your horse, you're able to extend the arm and give a direct straight line thrust with the pointed blade. And obviously with a curved sabre or szabla, you can't really do that if you've got a very curved blade. You have to give a curved line thrust, which is not going to be as effective in certain scenarios or against certain types of clothing. Now, an interesting detail of these types of swords from Central and Eastern Europe is that the scabbards are often made of a variety of materials. It's almost sort of built up. So rather than having a simple wooden leather scabbard or a simple iron scabbard or brass scabbard, instead what they have is a wood and leather scabbard that has iron applied to it. Now, as mentioned in other videos, this kind of ethos is actually not dissimilar to what we find in certain parts of Asia, on, for example, Tibetan swords or Mongolian swords, some Chinese swords, even some Japanese swords like handachi type blade construction. Or indeed, if we go back to the ancient world, what we sometimes find on Iron Age swords, and indeed Roman, the gladius, the Roman army gladius actually has a construction somewhat like this, and indeed the gladius hispaniensis, or the Spanish sword, which predates the Roman gladius. And an interesting detail is we've got double rings here at the bottom and double rings at the top. I don't know why that was, but obviously some particular aspect of the design of the suspension from the belt, and also there would have been a sabretache probably as well, which is a type of bag essentially. But an interesting thing to note is you notice along the edges reinforcing the wood and leather scabbard, which would have been bashed around by stirrups and spurs and bashed against the side of the horse and bashing on the ground when you get on and off the horse and all this kind of stuff. So this is reinforcement for the wood and leather scabbard to help it survive. But an interesting detail is, although we have this edged section up the back here of iron coming into the end shape here, it's actually longer on the front edge, which makes a huge amount of sense when you consider that the sword or palash hangs this way. So the weight of the edge is going to be going downwards into the wood and the leather on this side. So that's the side that's most important to reinforce, number one, but also that's also the side which is most likely to bash on things down here, because you're not going to bash it up here because that's against your body. So it is reinforced for some weight at the back here, but it's reinforced for much longer on the front cutting edge for the reasons aforementioned. So here we go, there we go. I hope that's appreciated. A different type of sword, not one that we get to see an awful lot on my channel or any other channel for that matter. But this is a palash, which to most intents and purposes you can consider a broadsword blade on what would typically be considered a sabre or shabla hilt. And very often this type of hilt could be with a sabre blade, and we call it a shabla or a sabre, but because it's a straight blade we call it a palash. Anyway, thanks a lot. A link below to the full catalogue for the Olympia auction on the 4th of December. And thanks a lot for the suggestion for this from Thomas, and hopefully I'll see you back on the channel really soon. Cheers folks. Thanks for watching. We've got extra videos on Patreon. Please give our Facebook a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Cheers folks.